So what is a blockchain? Okay, this is question number 4. A blockchain, like I've just touched on, is obviously it's digital, and in some ways, I think I'm of the opinion that the only blockchain that matters is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's the only base layer future of money that we're going to use. And all these other crypto projects that are talking about blockchain, they're basically expensive databases that aren't actually decentralized and really don't perform a valuable real world use case. So I'd be completely unsurprised if most crypto projects, I'm talking 95%, 99% of them just completely disappear over time. You only have to look at the Ethereum Bitcoin chart to see what is going on there, right? In terms of price action, it's just, it's lower lows every time for those guys, just falling away against Bitcoin. So a blockchain is it's basically okay, let's say, so the Genesis block I touched on before, Chancellor on brink of second bailout, written into the code as a nod to like central banking and like what the hell's going on there. And a central bank essentially is running a private ledger in which they can issue as much or as little of the monetary units as they want. Now, whether they do it through different types of debt, whether they call it stimulus or quantitative easing, or you name it, it's an inflationary monetary policy. And what the Bitcoin blockchain does is it basically writes into a extraordinarily well protected database of transactions. And so each block, which is currently every roughly 10 minutes, will contain a set of transactions that were processed. And so you talk about the Bitcoin blockchain as essentially a database of transactions on the Bitcoin network since Bitcoin started life. So early 2009. So each Bitcoin node has a copy of every single transaction ever done. And so to kill Bitcoin, like, it's extraordinarily hard to do that. Like I already touched on, there's probably 30, 40,000 nodes globally. So you'd have to go and find every single one of those and destroy it. And if just one of them makes it back online, then you've got every transaction that ever happened, and all the other nodes can suddenly pick up where that one true source, continues from. So that's why it's decentralized, right? It was the ability for people that run nodes to do so with very small computing capacity. And there's an ongoing discussion as to like, oh, well, Bitcoin, in order to be competing with MasterCard, it needs to be doing thousands and thousands of payments per second, and it can only do, a couple. Therefore, it's going to fail because it will never be a payments layer. It's like, well, actually, what's probably more important is firstly the use case of digital gold, a digital version of gold that is able to send value across space and time is a complete game changer. And that's where gold failed, essentially, is it was good at storing value over time, but not good at storing value across space. Chopping up gold bars is not easy, and it's more expensive to send your gold to someone on the other side of the world than it is to actually perform the transaction. So what is blockchain? Basically a modern form of technology that is possible due to certain types of cryptography, and there's been this iteration process for decades as people built new things. Like there was a project called Hashcash, project called eGold, eCash, and eventually they've ended up with this proof of work blockchain that Satoshi, well, really that was the innovation in some ways that hadn't been done before. The Bitcoin blockchain is where all the data is kept for the history of transactions. And so if you open a Bitcoin wallet, or if you create a Bitcoin wallet and you receive Bitcoin into it, that transaction is on the Bitcoin blockchain. If you then send Bitcoin somewhere else, that transaction is on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's like a source of truth. I've even heard it described as a time machine, in that it's time stamping. So every transaction that goes through, time, time, time. So it's kind of like a clock, which is a really fascinating concept. It's like, what do you mean it's time chain? And yeah, I mean, again, beginner's content, but I'd recommend you looking into that.